Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Machine Learning.net Community Stand-Up. I'm Bree. I'm the PM for ML.net. And I'll let Louise and John introduce themselves as well. Louise?
Yeah, hey, folks. I'm Louise, part of the Microsoft Docs team working on Docs. John?
Hey, y'all. Jon Wood here. I am a software developer and Microsoft MVP. Y'all might have known me for some YouTube videos and yeah, kind of helping out with the community conference and all that.
Just some YouTube videos. Yeah, we'll go over those later. John has been super great and important in building the ML.net community and helping people get started. And we'll show off his work in a bit. But yeah, first let's go through some community links. Here is the URL list for that, the link for that, and we'll put it in the comments of the recorded YouTube video. So I'll share my screen here. All right, so we've got a huge list today. I'll go ahead and get started. The first one is just kind of an announcement. A few weeks ago, we hit, or I guess in September 10th, we hit 100K installs of Model Builder, which is awesome. So that was a really, really big time. If we were, at the office in person, I'm sure there would have been a cake, but instead it was just a bit of a virtual hurrah and celebration. Next one, this is, let's see if it'll load here. So this is a bit of a, sorry, Louise, if you want to say something.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, this is kind of, you're going to show off why it got to 100K installs, right?
Yeah, this is exactly why. So this is, if you're not familiar, this is Reddit. And this subreddit is r/programmer humor. And someone actually posted a screenshot of adding machine learning, which is, of course, for Model Builder. And they said, oh, it's as easy as that. No wonder it's popular. I think this is a very big success, making it to programmer humor. Mainstream tech is great. And it was actually great to see someone leaving really positive feedback about how it is actually really simple to use. So that was really awesome to see. Then here we've got Christopher. So after our last community stand-up, we had Bart on talking about .NET 5, Blazor WebAssembly, and ML.NET. He actually said that he got inspired by the talk. And I think before the stand-up was even over, he followed one of the tutorials and made it in Blazor. So he had good or bad text or that sentiment analysis and was able to implement that into a Blazor WebAssembly application.
Yeah, and just to kind of like follow up on that one, he actually hosted on GitHub pages, so I think you should be able to, if you go to his GitHub, you should be able to see the actual application running live in the browser for free, posted on GitHub. So yeah, really cool.
Okay, I'll open it real quick just to see where this will lead to, so we can see a preview of it. Maybe, yeah, my computer when sharing my screen tends to lag a bit. There we go. So let's check the vibe. ML.NET is, I'm kind of scared what it is. Awesome. Vibe check. Give it a second. Toxic. How could it?
Lies.
I know exactly what that is. It's the data set that was used, which just proves the importance of your data set that you use. This is with the Wikipedia toxic versus non-toxic. I think there's only like 250 examples in it. So Christopher, I'll challenge you to actually train with the Yelp label data set, which will actually, I think, give you a bit better results there. Louise, do you want to talk about this a bit?
Yeah, so we noticed all the cool cats were getting on Discord, so we now have a channel on Discord as well that you can join and come chat. We know that there's a few channels for you to, get in contact with the team. You can, of course, open up issues and start conversations there. There's also the Gitter channel, which is, again, tied to the core repo, right, to the .NET machine learning repo. But Discord, or the channel that's in Discord, that's meant to be a little bit more of, I guess, informal and just a way for you to connect around all things machine learning, not specifically related to the .NET machine learning ML.NET repo. So yeah, make sure to join.
We're talking to the .NET Discord folks, that team, to make sure we get specific ML.NET conversations going. Obviously, I've not joined yet. I still have to do that, but I will be doing that soon. So this one, James McAvoy, he created kind of an intro to ML.NET. He said, come take a look at it. Gave really good explanations of what you can do with it. How do you get started? I think he did the example of price prediction based on the size of a house, and really kind of gets into like what exactly is the code doing and how can we use this in the real world. And so, yeah, anything else to add here, Louise?
No, yeah. I mean, I think it's just really great that we're seeing more and more folks getting started and really trying it out for themselves and seeing if this is something that they'll eventually want to add to their applications.
Yeah. And this, just following that point, we're seeing more and more YouTube videos as well, and languages other than English, which is awesome. I'm actually not sure what this language is. Do you know what language it is?
Yeah, it's our friend Avi. He's actually posted a few blog posts, and now he did an interview and sort of like a presentation introducing ML.NET. So for our Portuguese-speaking audience, you can definitely check out his content. There's tons of great stuff to get you started there.
Amazing. And so then
those videos look better than mine.
No, I'm sure they're just as great. All of them are amazing. So then we've got another getting started guide with JK here, who you've probably seen him post a bunch about ML.NET. I think he just became an MVP, right? Just posted about that, so that's awesome. So he has a getting started talk coming up. I don't know what Tuesday, or does this already happen, or?
No. It's next Tuesday, I believe. Yeah, so if you're at NDC, if you're attending NDC Sydney, I believe it's virtual now. So if you're attending it and you want to learn a little bit more about ML.NET, JK, he's a very great presenter, and this presentation of his is really great. So make sure to check it out.
And then so I'm sure most of you know Alexandra by now. He actually was on the Six Figure Developer talking about ML.NET and MLOps, which is his open source project. And so to talk a little bit more about MLOps.net, I guess I should say. MLOps, if you don't know, is managing the model lifecycle. So it's kind of like DevOps for machine learning or for your machine learning models. It can be things like, versioning your models, deploying your models, keeping track of all your data and different versions of the data. There's a lot of different applications here. And this is actually an open source project that Alexandra's been working on. I believe he was on our first community stand-up for machine learning. He talked a bit about it. So this is his blog post about it. And he actually had a new release, I guess just 3 days ago. Do you want to talk a bit about the new release, Luis?
Yeah. So 1.0 was actually not too long ago. It feels like it wasn't that long ago. So getting to 1.2, it was really great. And there's a lot of pieces coming into play here, right? And actually, Alexander's in the chat. So if you have additional questions, you can ask him. But so one of the pieces and some of the work that he started doing was he started developing .NET templates, right? So templates, so you can say .NET new, and then you can basically auto-generate a startup project, right, for ML.NET. And then he took it a step further where he essentially integrated this and made it so that you're able to create or basically scaffold a sort of ASP.NET Core web application, right? And then if that wasn't enough, right, he went ahead and made it super easy to basically containerize and then deploy to Kubernetes the application in I would say a few lines of code, maybe three to 5 lines of code, maybe less. And yeah, so it's super simple if you're looking for that sort of highly scalable and distributed sort of deployment via containers and ASP.NET Core applications. This release is going to enable you to do that. So definitely check it out. Congratulations to Alexandra. And really the community that he's built, I know that there's a lot of passionate community members that are contributing to it. So, this is the type of work that we love to see and warms our hearts. So keep it up.
Yeah. So then we've got another ML.NET tutorial. I believe this one is in Spanish. So this is, again, really, really awesome to see a bunch of different languages to kind of getting people accustomed to ML.NET and teaching them about ML.NET. So that's really awesome to see. And this is, I'm trying to find the author here.
Yeah, I don't think there's an author. I think it's just in general, like it's a company. There you go, Diego.
Yep, Diego. There we go. I remember seeing, I think, Diego on Twitter, so I knew there was an author there. So then, do you want to talk about this one, Luis?
Yeah. So Michael, and I hope that I'm pronouncing that one right. He put together an article before about how do you get values out of prediction values out of basically just general models in ML.NET. In this case, though, he's doing it specifically with Onyx models. So for folks who may not be aware, in ML.NET, you're able to score or make predictions with Onyx models, right? So as a result, he just kind of walks through and shows you how you can inspect the output from those in this post here. So it's really nice to see that. It gives you a little bit of a better understanding in terms of, what exactly is the output that you're getting.
Nice. Right, and you want to talk about this one also?
Yeah, so this one, I believe, is a company who built a model, and I think that they work with clients across various industries, and I think healthcare is one of them. And what they done here is they built a model that, from my understanding, is able to give priority. So, for example, if you have data, health data on patient, right? You're able to sort of give priority to certain patients who may be more at risk of certain heart conditions, right? So they leveraged ML.NET to build that model, and I believe it might be in production. So it's really great to see that companies are really embracing ML.NET, and it's actually out there in the wild and in production, right? So yeah, this is a really cool use case.
Not only in production, but there's just so many different use cases for it and so many different kind of areas like healthcare, law, my favorite hazelnut story. Like it's pretty crazy to see what people are coming up with.
Yep.
Great. So this one was actually in Visual Studio Magazine, written by David. So this is talking a bit about adding object detection training in ML.NET via Azure ML in Model Builder. So he kind of goes in and describes what Model Builder is, what the CLI is, which is of course ML.NET tooling, what is AutoML, and then kind of talking about the differences between object detection and image classification, and just kind of talking about how object detection was added to Model Builder. So you can now train. Right now it's only through Azure ML, and we're looking, of course, to add local training as well for all of our scenarios where we can. And this is pretty similar. So this is just a blog post about some September updates for ML.NET. One of them being object detection and Model Builder. And this tool called VOT. So currently in Model Builder, we don't offer a way for you to tag your photos or your images. We expect you to have that data already labeled. And we suggest a tool called VOT, which is an open source Microsoft tool that you can use. If this does not meet your expectations, you're always welcome to leave feedback. I think we have a specific, let me see here. Yeah, we have a specific GitHub issue template here. So if you had object detection data in a different format, you could let us know and we could see how we can incorporate that. We also added local image classification training to the ML.NET CLI, which is awesome. So if you don't use VS or you're cross-platform, you can use the CLI for image classification training.
The other scenario that I'll probably call out for the CLI is for your continuous integration and continuous delivery. So your MLOps scenarios, right? That's really a way that the CLI may be of great benefit to you.
Yeah, definitely. And then I think we talked about this last time, but we released ML.NET 1.5.2. There was a regression in 1.5.1, so we recommend that you skip that one and go straight to 1.5.2. And you can see the release notes here. I think I had a previous blog post that talked about all the new things that were added, like seasonality detection and root cause detection and so on. Yeah, so now the big announcement, I believe, is this one. Oh, no, not yet. Sorry, that's the next one. Do you want to go through this one and then I can do the big announcement?
Yeah, totally. So this one it's actually something that's been out for quite some time. And the team, the .NET Interactive team has been making a lot of improvements to this feature, which is with .NET Interactive, and for folks who may not be aware, .NET Interactive is this global .NET tool that you're able to, one of the things that it provides you is with the kernel for Jupyter Notebooks. So you're able to write C#, F#, and PowerShell code inside of Jupyter Notebooks. Now, something else that people the web interface, Jupyter Notebooks, Jupyter Lab, it has certain shortcomings, and that's one of the nice things about Jupyter, that it's open source, it's accessible. So you're able to use many different sort of front ends, right? So you can use Interact, and in this case, one of the things that you can do is you can use Visual Studio Code, right? Now, in this case, you're going to need the Insiders version because this is still a very, it's a preview sort of feature, and it's under active development and taking feedback. But one of the really cool things is, as opposed to Jupyter Notebooks, at least from what I've tried, you don't need Anaconda in order to get this running, and you get IntelliSense, and you get sort of that nice feeling that you get from having from working inside of the code editor, as opposed to working in some sort of web-based environment or IDE. So definitely recommend that you check it out. Of course, you can definitely use what's it called, ML.NET with this. And the other thing that they kind of highlight here is sort of this polyglot sort of feature, which what that means is, let's say that you can use, for example, xplot.plotly, and that will only take you so far, but there's tons of really great visualization libraries out there that are typically JavaScript for the browser and data visualization. So with this, what you can do is you can use variable sharing to basically take the values. For example, let's say you have a list of data points, right? And you can then pass those in to JavaScript, perhaps a d3.js or whatever it may be, and you can get some very rich visualizations that maybe perhaps some of the .NET libraries may not give you. So it's a really awesome work from the team, and yeah, definitely go check it out and provide feedback.
Yeah, IntelliSense is pretty huge, huh?
Yeah, and I've been messing with that pretty recently, and I've been very impressed with it myself. So definitely good job to the team with that. And for any more .NET interactive stuff, I'll be using this.
Yeah, and we actually have a question from Theorem Geek. Is there a standard approach to the file type now? Is it divergent towards IPyNB? From what I tried, you can use IPyNB files, so that it's not that .dib format anymore. John, I'm not sure if you've seen differently, but I think that that IPyNB extension files sort of work out of the box.
John, were you going to say something?
Yeah, for not mess with it, it seems like if you create a new notebook, it creates it as IPyNB.
Yep.
And I'm assuming there'll be some videos coming up soon about that, John.
Yeah, I have one planned already.
Awesome. Okay, so now finally the big announcement, which I thought I had open here, but apparently I don't. So we finally have a date set for the virtual ML.NET Hackathon. So if you might have joined us earlier in the year for, when was that, March? Or I can't remember when exactly it was, but we had our first virtual ML.NET community conference. It was super successful. We had a ton of people, a lot of engagement. We started off with a workshop that Louise and I led, and then from there we went into a day full of community sessions. And yeah, so this is kind of the second one, virtual ML.NET conference, but hackathon version. So we'll start off with that workshop again, and then we'll go into a hackathon. So this is the repo for it. This is where you'll actually submit your project ideas. So you can create a project by creating an issue in the repo, put in the details of that project, and then, or if you want to join an existing project, whether you don't want to come up with your own idea or you see something that looks really interesting, you can comment on an existing issue. And yeah, we have, the rules here, some example data sets, some project ideas, some FAQs, the code of conduct. We have a Slack channel for it too. So if you haven't joined the virtual ML.NET Slack community yet, you can do that here. And then here's where so there's actually a sign up form. So if you click on this, there'll be a form here with some important dates, and this is how you'd sign up. And the first 50 people to sign up will get an exclusive ML.NET t-shirt. So make sure you get your sign up soon. And that will be on November 13th through 20th. So it'll be, you have, I think, a little less than a week, or maybe about a week. Yeah, I think a little less than a week to get your submissions in. And then on the 20th is when we'll actually announce the winners. And of course, this is going to be all virtual. Louise, did you have anything you wanted to say about this?
Yeah, so in terms of ideas and types of projects, we really aren't, we look forward to seeing what you come up with, right? And there's no sort of, I guess, standard in terms of what we're expecting. What we do, though, expect is that you use ML.NET in some way, shape, or form, right? And the different ways that you might use it is, for example, one thing that you might want to do is contribute to the core repo, right? So you might say, hey, there's this algorithm or this thing that I see is not there. And I think it's something that will be valuable. Let's go ahead and do that. Something else that you might consider, speaking of, Bree mentioned that about sort of local training scenarios, perhaps maybe adding like a high-level object detection API that leverages TensorFlow.net's object detection API to basically enable that sort of local object detection training scenario. That would be really cool. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you do as long as it includes ML.NET in some way, shape, or form. And just as a reminder, it's got to be a new project, right? So existing projects won't necessarily be considered for submission. You can most certainly find people and work with them on existing projects, but again, they won't necessarily be considered for submission. Only new projects will be considered.
Yeah. John, anything you want to say since you're also helping plan this?
Did we want to mention the prizes now, or?
Yeah, actually. So we're still figuring out, final prizes, but we do know that one of them will be the winners will get to come on to the community stand-up with us and talk about their submissions. So that'll be one of them. We'll have a judging criteria on here. I don't know if it's on here already with a few different categories. So there will be multiple winners, but yeah, the winners will get to come on with us and I hope that's a good prize. Hopefully people want to come talk to us and be on the stand-up. But yeah, so, and then there may be other things. So stay tuned. But like I said, the first 50 people to sign up will get a t-shirt. Yeah, so
Swag.
yes, exactly.
And
So
it's different than this one too, right?
Oh,
it depends if that's what people want. But yeah, we may work with some designers on the team to get a t-shirt design.
limited edition.
Limited edition. Although I think the I Love ML.NET shirts are also limited edition. They're pretty good. So yeah, that's all of the community links. That was a ton of community links, which is awesome. We're seeing more
There's
and more.
actually one more.
Oh,
I'm not sure why it didn't show up here, which is weird. But anyway, let's see. I guess it's not coming up.
Yeah. That's it. How could we forget? This is the most important one for today. All right, so this is actually John's YouTube channel. And of course, it'll be in the URL list so that you can check it out. You can see how many different videos he has, not only on ML.NET, but well, of course, we're biased towards the ML.NET ones. So if we go here, you can see that he has a ton of different videos. Like he spent so much time on this. And he's always, contributing. He actually just submitted a sample a sample for AutoML ranking scenario, which is awesome. So definitely take a look at his videos. He has, from getting started to kind of digging deeper into it, like creating a deep neural network model. So yeah, well, of course, we'll have the link in the URL list and such. Someone asked, who is John? John is Jon Wood. He's our guest today. Yeah. So, John, is there any? Well, I guess we'll have you on to talk about all these later. So I have one more thing I want to show, but first let me go through and make sure we don't. I know that we might have had some questions that we missed.
Yeah,
Louis,
I do. So there's this one from Gregor. So is it a problem if you can't be there for the first 2 days? Totally blocked every Friday and Saturday. Not a problem at all. So the first day is going to be a workshop, and that, if you're experienced with ML.NET, it's not required that you attend, but it might be more of a refresher. For new users, we encourage it though. That way you get a little bit acquainted with ML.NET and all it has to offer. And yeah, there's not a requirement that you have to be there sitting, attached to your seat for all days of the hackathon. If that's what you choose to do for whatever number of hours or days, that's your prerogative. But yeah, that's totally okay. We're totally flexible as long as you submit by the deadline.
Yeah. So I see another one here. Still developing a chatbot. I assume that's ML.NET. What are the options in not English languages, or translating the data set is the way? Yeah, so it's all going to depend on your data set that you have. You'd have to translate that data set, or have a data set that's already in a different language. Louise or John, anything to add there?
Yeah, it's constantly a challenge, right, for not getting data sets in non-English form. I mean, I think you even see it with, for example, with Alexa, right, and these sort of smart home devices that are voice activated. A lot of times they have trouble understanding, for example, things like what's it called, like accents and things like that. And a lot of that comes from that these data sets themselves are not very diverse and not they don't encompass everybody's sort of languages and things like that. So I think it's just a general problem, and yeah, something that you'll have to unfortunately deal with.
Mm-hmm. So this question, can I participate with my friend or do I have to be solo? You can totally sign up with a friend if you want. There's options. So when you submit a new project, it'll be a new issue in the GitHub repo, and you can tag, whether you're looking for teammates or whether you don't want outside teammates. And you can tag that, so you can totally sign up with a friend or friends. Let's see. Just checking out. Oh, got link on the GitHub Hackathon site. Yes, we do.
Yeah, I think we just added it to the chat. So check the chat, and if not, you can also check the URL list because it's on there as well.
This is it, right?
Mm-hmm. That's it.
So this is the link for that. And let me go back through to see if there's anything else I missed. Cool. So I think Unless Louise, you see anything?
No, I don't see anything. I mean, I guess there's a question here, and just for folks who may be new to the to the stream or just to ML.NET in general, ML.NET is like TensorFlow. It is not like TensorFlow, but you can leverage TensorFlow via some not third party, but sort of external libraries like TensorFlow.net to help build ML.NET models. So it's more of a framework that you can use to build models inside of machine learning models and deep learning models inside of .NET.
Yeah, and we had someone comment that there's C#. Check that out. It has TensorFlow in it. So we actually had Haiping on last week, who works on the C# team, and it's an open source framework for a bunch of data science and machine learning tools for .NET, or specifically C#. So TensorFlow.net is one of their projects that has C# bindings for TensorFlow. And so TensorFlow is a bit lower level, I would say. And we actually have, I think Louise just said this, we have our image classification API, which is actually on top of TensorFlow.net for training custom image classification models with a method called transfer learning. So, okay, so let me switch over to Visual Studio here. I just want to show off one thing and then we'll hand it off to John. So if you haven't seen, this is ML.NET Model Builder. To get to it, I created just a console application. I right click on my project and add machine learning, as you saw in r/programmer humor. And so then you see all these different scenarios. And I don't know if we explained this before in our previous, maybe the first stand-up we did, but these right here, these scenarios are all ones that are supported by AutoML, or automated machine learning. So this means that you choose these scenarios, you input your data set, and then AutoML will iterate through different models and choose the best model for you. So you don't have to deal with choosing the data transformations or the algorithms that you want to add to the pipeline. So it trains it for you. So the limited scenarios, these are scenarios that are still supported by ML.NET. You can build the pipeline, you can choose your algorithms. ML.NET has algorithms supplied for these scenarios, but it's not yet supported by automated machine learning. So for instance, if I click on anomaly detection, you can see it skips all of the usual steps and it goes straight to this, consume the model. And what we do is link to our sample code in our sample repo on GitHub, and open on my other screen here. So it actually opens up to this tutorial where you can download that repo and get started and then start plugging in your own data. But so just because they're not supported by AutoML now doesn't mean that they won't be in the future. We would love to hear your feedback on which ones are the most important for you, which scenarios you really want to use and have supported by AutoML. This is relatively new. We have this feedback button here where you can suggest a feature. So if you want to see any of these limited scenarios move up to being able to train with your own data and use AutoML, let us know. So quick look to see if there's any questions. Fernando here asked about building neural networks from scratch with custom layers. Louise, you want to take this one?
Yeah, now with ML.NET, ML.NET actually, if you're training custom image classification models with the image classification API, it actually uses transfer learning. So only the last layer is retrained and you don't actually build the layers yourself. If you want to do that, you can certainly check out TensorFlow.net, and there you'll have a little bit more lower level control over your layers and your network.
Yeah, and then we have this question here, any examples for automation industries? This seems kind of general. Do you want to, Karthik, do you want to be a bit more specific maybe? We can help answer that question and give you some specific examples. We'll keep an eye out in the chat for that. Okay. And how does the forecasting feature work? Does it use neural networks? John, do you want to take this one since I'm sure you've done a video on it?
I have, but it's been a while. As far as I know, it doesn't use neural network, but it does use some time series algorithms kind of under the hood there.
Exactly. And time series data is just sequential data, based in time. So if you have a day in a month, such as sales data. You know, you have your sales data for this month of this year, this month of this year, and you have it kind of in that sequential order. That's your time series data.
And I think, and I may be wrong in this, but I think at the moment it's only univariate, right? So what that means is it only allows one input or one feature to train your forecasting model. I believe that at some point there may have been work on multivariate, but I'm not sure if that actually is actually part of the ML.NET yet. But yeah.
I'll have to double check on that. I remember talks about it, but I can't remember.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So now I will stop sharing my screen and let's turn it over to John. So, John, do you want to talk a little bit about, you know, all the ML.NET stuff you've worked on and maybe why you love ML.NET so much? How did you learn about it? That was a lot of questions in once, but, you know, feel free to take whichever one sounds most interesting.
No, yeah, I think I'll just start with how I got started with it and all that. So, oh man, what was it, build 2018 when it was first introduced? I think I was watching it live as well. And me and a colleague of mine at the time were pretty interested in the data science and machine learning space. And we've been learning some Python stuff. And actually, how I got into that was F#, which, Luis, you probably would enjoy that. I remember a code camp I went to. It was a guy, he did on F#, and I'll always remember what he said. He said, you can always go into the web space or the data space, and he taught how you can do the data space with F#. And I got so intrigued from it, and I started playing around with it. And I thought, oh, this is really fun. I actually enjoyed programming like I did when I first started, when I messed with F# and data. So, and then at some point I thought, man, I need to, if I want to get serious with it, maybe I should kind of go with Python and learn some other ways with that. So I did that. And then the 2018 build happened. We had the ML.NET announcement. I was like, oh, awesome. I can do machine learning and some data science with C#, which I've been programming in for over 10 years now. So I know a little bit about it. And so it was open source since that announcement. So I kind of dug into it, played around with it. And I was like, you know, if I really want to get into it, why don't I just help contribute, kind of do some pull requests in there. So that's pretty much how I got started. And for the videos, that was kind of a thing I was doing for work at the time, just creating a bunch of presentations, and I was creating videos for those. And, you know, I was still into the ML.NET, and I was like, man, I don't see a lot of stuff on ML.NET. So I created a video for it. And I think it was back, oh man, version 0.4, I think was when I first did that. And
still use the static pipeline API.
Yeah. And interestingly, that video is still one of my most popular videos. But yep, enjoyed that and enjoyed the feedback and mainly how much it was helping people from the comments I was getting. And I was like, well, why don't I just keep making videos with ML.NET and occasionally do some call data services and Azure ML in there as well. So that's how that got started. And in the meantime, I continue to look for issues on the repo to kind of help with, mostly documentation, I believe, that and the samples repo. So I think I'll go ahead and share my screen for that.
Yeah, and I think that's really, you know, interesting that you and Koichri. I am not listening to metal, but what I was saying was that it's really interesting that you mentioned that, right? Like that you saw this thing that you liked, you were passionate about, and you didn't see anything there for it, and you were just like, well, yeah, let me just go ahead and create something for it. And I think that that's something that we encourage. We definitely, like I said, when we highlight these community links, right? We want folks in the community to if they see that there's a gap, if there's things that are missing that perhaps aren't being covered, and that they would like to see as part of their learning process or whatever it may be, we definitely encourage it, and we look forward to those types of contributions, right?
Yeah. And I'll add on to there, don't be afraid to put stuff out there. Don't be afraid to hit that publish button. None of my stuff's perfect, probably far from it. But I still try to get published at least once a week on the videos. But even though I know it's not perfect, somebody, at least one person, gets something out of it, then it was worth it. So yeah, don't be afraid to put something out there. Yep. So we got the ML.NET repo here, and for those who are kind of curious, like for the hackathon, or just in general, if they wanted to contribute, a couple of things I started looking at when I first began contributing. The team has been really good about creating these tags, and a couple of tags, the documentation is probably the biggest one to look at. And as you can see, there are 2 pages worth of issues for documentation. So there's definitely some stuff that you can get into. And if you need some help with it, just feel free to put a comment and say, hey, can somebody kind of help me figure out where I can get started with this? And the team has been probably one of the best teams I've worked with on GitHub or pretty much anywhere. So documentation tag, then there's a up for grabs tag they put out. And there's also the good first issue tags. So those are the first ones I look at when I try to find something, especially here. I'll be honest, some of these issues are way above my head. So I try to look for these to find something that I kind of know what to do.
And for those issues that you mentioned that you feel like they may be way over your head, like how has your experience been in terms of like maybe you need guidance and or you need some input in terms of like, okay, like this is something I think I could work on, but I just need a little help. How's that experience been?
It's been great. A few people in particular, Eric has been really awesome and helping me on a few issues. Some of them I also was like, I think I know what to do. So I'll get a pull request and then I'll tag them and say, hey, I think this is right. Just let me know what I need to change or anything. Everybody's been like super nice on the comments and giving further guidance on that.
Cool.
And like I mentioned earlier, the machine learning samples. There's a bunch of samples here and some documentation with each of these samples as well. And of course, they have their own issues. So there's definitely plenty of, between this and the ML.NET core repo, there's definitely plenty to choose from if that's what you want to get into.
And there's also, I'll add one more, just to throw it in there, shameless plug. We also accept contributions on docs. So the docs are open source as well at it's a .NET/docs repo. And we also encourage, if you see, even if it's just a typo, please, you're only helping the next person by making the documentation better. So yeah, we'd certainly accept that. And if there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to guide you in making contributions. So yeah.
Yep. And these are on the MSDN docs, right?
They're in the Microsoft docs. They were formerly, I believe, MSDN. MSDN, I think, since last year, maybe. It's been retired or archived. Okay. So, yeah.
Cool. And a lot of issues. If there's anything you want to get there.
Yeah, and just to clarify, like this one's to just the entire .NET doc. So if it's a ASP.NET Core, ML.NET, .NET for Apache Spark, whatever you're passionate or interested in, you're more than welcome to add contributions there.
Hey, John, I have to ask you now, if you could add or change one thing about ML.NET, or add something to ML.NET, what would it be?
maybe
be as brutally honest as possible.
I think this is an issue with the Python space as well, about kind of unit testing your models. And it's probably, I don't think there's any kind of best practices on this yet. But it would be kind of interesting to have some, I don't know, maybe some helper or tools to kind of help with that, if that's possible. Again, it's one of those things that it's evolving, and there's just nothing really good out there yet. So it's probably not the time for that in ML.NET, because I'm sure people want some other features like the neural networks thing that we just got asked earlier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do. We are starting to hear that more and more, for sure. And
kind of going off of that one, John. So with ML.NET now, you can actually use, if, for example, if you have an iData view, there's a method that you can basically add on to an iData view called .preview, and that allows you to inspect, I believe it's the first 100 rows, or in a iData view, before, after, or whatever transformations you perform to it. That's kind of a step in that direction, right, towards some sort of debuggability of transformations and what exactly is going on in my model and what these transformations are doing. But yeah, I agree that it's still a long way there. And even the preview, that one's not really recommended that you use it in production, right? It's more of like, hey, it's there if you want to kind of like take a peek, but we don't recommend that you use it in production because it can be resource intensive. So yeah.
And John, you might have answered this before, but before your investigations with ML.NET and F# and such, did you have any background in machine learning or data science?
None at all.
That's awesome.
I never.
I love that.
Yeah, machine learning is pretty heavily tied to statistics, and I've never taken a stats class. So,
That's
it kind of goes, it kind of goes to how easy ML.NET is for anybody to pick up to and to contribute to.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's one of those things where it certainly introduces you, and the tooling goes a long way to help with that, right? Because it's like, okay, well, I don't know what a estimator is, or I don't know what a transformer is, or an iData view. That's okay, right? With the tooling and automated ML, it kind of extracts that complexity away from you. But at the same time, it sort of gives you a sort of, it sort of puts guardrails to a certain extent and focuses you on what it is they're trying to achieve, so that later on, when you do have the time to go back and say, oh, well, what does the F1 score mean? What does accuracy mean? And you start to get down into the actual machine learning side of things, right? You can certainly do that after the fact, but that's not a prerequisite to getting started.
We got a question about what's the proper hashtag to use for on Twitter for MLNet. I went back and forth about a year ago about what it should be. I believe MLNet is the one that we've kind of decided on. Hashtag MLNet. And that's where I see the most stuff. So that's a great question though, because I also question that sometimes. But hashtag MLNet is the one that I usually use. I think Luis also uses for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a great question. There's also a Twitter account that's like at ML.NET or something, but it's not owned by our team. So just to keep that in mind, if it's not like maintained or whatever they post. But yeah, so and I'll write it here so you all can.
Yeah, that's usually what I'll use. Yeah, it's not. I mean, I've seen like capital M, capital N. I think lowercase, everything lowercase works.
Yeah. Speaking of Twitter. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, John.
Sorry, but I've also seen ML with dot spelled out net.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the other one I've seen. But yeah, John's also on Twitter, so that's his Twitter handle there. He's I always see him answering questions, people in the community, and he tweeted out about the I Love MLNet shirts a while back. And so if you want to follow him, That's his Twitter handle. Like, swipe up to subscribe, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Let me see if there's any other questions for you, John.
So in terms of, because I know that you in your channel, right, you cover while it's, I don't say that it's ML.NET specific, you certainly have a I guess you tend to have more ML.NET videos, but you also cover other technologies, right? I think you've done Azure Machine Learning. You've also done cognitive services. In your experience, and again, coming from the standpoint where it's like, hey, I didn't really have, I guess, a machine learning background. I guess for somebody that's getting started, right? What sort of approach or how do you see those maybe, being different, but at the same time, sort of, working together nicely?
And like which videos would be best to get started with, or?
No, sorry, I meant in terms of solutions, right? So like if I'm looking at, hey, I want to do ML.NET, sorry, I want to do machine learning. I don't have a lot of background. Should I use cognitive services? Should I use Azure ML? Should I use ML.NET? Like, and if I go down one path, right, does that mean that I then can't sort of, use the other solutions?
Well, you can certainly go toward different solutions. I think each of these are pretty, they have a lot of documentation on all of them where you can get started with them pretty easily. But in terms of which one to kind of start using, for one thing, I would say it depends on what your end goal is. Is your end goal to create an application and get something published or deployed? Or is your end goal to kind of tinker around with something, learn more about machine learning and some of the steps? If it's the app kind of way, definitely cognitive services, because those are kind of pre-built machine learning solutions that Microsoft has for you, and most of them have these SDKs. They all have kind of .NET SDKs and JavaScript and Python and all that. But if you're working with on a Flutter or something, there's always a kind of a RESTful API that you can use for each of the cognitive services. For the other way, if you really want to get deep into it, then maybe Azure ML would be more of your place you want to go, where you can actually use the TensorFlow or PyTorch and scikit-learn for those kind of more low-level type of models to create and learn along the way.
Yeah, no, I think that certainly makes sense. And yeah, depending on your needs, right, you can certainly mix and match, like in the example of Azure Machine Learning, right? So for example, the Azure enabled training scenarios through the tooling, they leverage Azure Machine Learning, right? And with interoperability tools like Onyx, you're able to basically sort of cross that boundary a bit and be able to, mix and match solutions. And maybe there's certain cases where having a custom model may not make sense. And in that case, maybe you might want to have, cognitive services. So you could certainly imagine a scenario where you're using all three inside of the same application, depending on what you use. So, but yeah, it's really great to see that you've sort of covered both of them. So it's really nice that you're not just coming at it from, from sort of a, it's like, hey, ML.NET is all I've tried. And that's sort of, definitely tried out ML.NET, but certainly that you've sort of tried the spectrum, right? And yeah.
Yeah. And there are a couple of videos.
I'm actually, oh, sorry, go ahead, John.
Yeah, there are a couple of videos where I did some mix and matching. I think one of them created a custom vision object detection model. And I think I got the Onyx model and I used that within ML.NET. And I think I also used it in Python too. But yeah, you can certainly mix and match those, especially with the nice way you can use Onyx models within ML.NET.
Yeah, so going back to what you were saying before, I've also noticed that there's kind of two groups of people. I mean, maybe a little bit more, but there's one group who they just want to get a model, they want to put it into production. They don't really care how it's built, and usually they'll use AutoML or tooling. And then there's kind of another group of people who they want to learn more about the process and have a bit more control and actually learn a little bit more about the mechanics of machine learning as they're building the model. I would love to know, from you all that are watching, feel free to comment, like what group you kind of fall into. Do you want to learn a bit more and take that time to learn how to build the pipeline and choose the algorithms, or you just want to get a reliable model that you can put in production? That's something that we're kind of investigating right now. So if y'all want to leave that feedback in the comments, feel free, or I'm sure we'll have some surveys coming out soon. But just something I'm curious about.
Right. And I think this, kind of sidetracking a little bit here, but kind of going back to that point that you were mentioning earlier, John, about around, what sort of thing would you like to see in ML.NET, and sort of that debuggability / the testability of these models, right? For the hackathon, you are more than welcome to build tooling, right? So we have the, I guess, official, right, or first party tooling, if you will, in Model Builder and CLI, right? But as John mentioned, right, there's tooling that perhaps there's other tooling that you may find is missing in ML.NET, and we certainly welcome those types of contributions. A week, maybe, I guess a bit of a short time, but at least like a prototype or a POC, that certainly, would be welcome.
Yeah, I think, and it was in part of the fact that we have in the hackathon, that we don't need a full solution, just something that you've worked on, that an idea that you had and you worked on it and you made some progress towards.
Right. And speaking of ideas that it's not I guess a full solution or something like that, and more on these community organizations and community events, how did it start, the whole virtual ML.NET? I remember it literally started from a tweet, and it was like, hey, I want to start a conference.
I don't know what brought it up, but I just had a thought. And it's like, man, we could just do I was thinking like a mini conference, like a couple hours on a Saturday or something like that. And so I put the tweet on and said, hey, would anybody want like a ML.NET mini conference? And then several people chimed in. Alex chimed in and said, yeah, definitely. I'll even help organize it, which is great because I have no organizational skills for these things. So he definitely did a lot in towards of organizing that.
Yeah, but it's really cool. And that, it literally started from a tweet. And I think that that's essentially what we would like to see at this hackathon, right? It's just a bunch of people like, hey, here's this crazy idea. Let's try it. And I'm sure that there's plenty of people who are more than willing to pitch in and don't really think it's a crazy idea. And I think that it's really valuable, and would be more than happy to collaborate and contribute. So we certainly would love to see that taking place.
Do you remember how many people we had attend the first conference?
Yeah, the first conference we had about, I think at the highest point in viewership, it was, I think about 500. So it was a pretty good turnout, considering that I think we had roughly 700 signups. So, yeah, I mean, for it being the first one, and again, the ML.NET community is certainly growing. But, relatively speaking, right, it's still fairly small, and that's okay, right? Mediums like this, the hackathon, events put on by the community, projects put on by the community, those go a long way towards growing the community, and in turn also making the product and everything better, right? So yeah, we certainly hope that you folks are engaged and excited for this hackathon, and we have no idea what to expect, and I don't want to say that we don't have expectations. But what I mean is by that is not that we think that submissions are not, there's not going to be submissions, but that we have no expectations in terms of, we know that we expect that we're going to be blown away by what you folks submit, right? And I don't think that any of us could even imagine the type of things that you'll come up with for this hackathon.
Yeah, we already have 7 people that have signed up since we announced it. So I just checked.
Nice.
That's amazing.
You get a t-shirt and you get a t-shirt.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, we'll continue to promote it, and you'll be sick of hearing about it after a while, but that's okay. Let me see if there's any last questions. Gregor said, I have an idea, but I'm not 100% sure that it's technically doable. Good enough for submission? Yeah, totally. So we had actually talked about, having a prize for, what was it, like most ambitious or, something similar. So if you don't finish it, it's totally fine. And, it's not all about winning. It's, about having fun and contributing to the community and pushing your limits, seeing what you can do with it. And seeing where it breaks too. We'd love to see where ML.NET breaks and where we can fix it.
Yeah. Skynet is not off the table. So if that is an idea that you have, Skynet is certainly a valid submission.
So friend said he just posted something on Twitter. So let me see if I can pull that up really quick. Let's see.
And friends, I guess you use the pound MLNet, hashtag MLNet.
There we go. Let me move it over to this thing.
Oh, yes. Very cool. Yes.
Oh, yeah. How could we forget? Sorry, I have too many windows open here. How do I get back to StreamYard? Where are you? Here you are.
While you're doing that, the Yearn Geek, where's engagement going to be happening during the hackathon? It's going to be on the Slack channel. If you visit the repo at the very bottom, it tells you how to join and the channel that you have to join, which is Hackathon 2020 on Slack.
Yeah. So friends here, he actually reached out a while ago, I think last year, about he created a ML.NET model builder extension for VS Code, which is awesome. So it's built on the CLI. And it looks like there's a new version out, or he's announcing, maybe he didn't announce before, I can't remember. Has added compatibility for code spaces in the new CLI. Friends, I'm sure we'll have you on at some point to talk about it, because you can tell us a lot more about it. I'll open this up here, and we can add it to the URL links as well. Really, really awesome to have this, have a bit of a UI and VS Code for those that are not super comfortable or don't want to use the CLI. So that's awesome.
Yeah, so I did notice that time flew, and we're actually hit the top of the hour. So we definitely want to thank Jon, not only for coming on today, but for all the contributions, whether that's organizing community events, the videos, of course, actually making contributions to the core repo, right? The list goes on. So we're very grateful, and we're very thankful for having you as a member of our community and sort of a champion behind it, right? And for folks that are tuning in, make sure to sign up. T-shirts, first 50. We look forward to seeing what you guys come up with. We're really excited.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, everyone. And we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yep. Talk to you then. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.